All right. So, are you are you heading straight down to the communion baths? Are you lingering anywhere?
I, after speaking with the head priestess, I head down into um the main chapel area, and I kind of stand in front of the statue of the Raven Queen to kind of gaze upon it and ponder. My thoughts have been whirling for since I first discovered the headmistress missing, and now I'm feeling all kinds of dejection and confusion. So I kind of take a minute to kind of gather my thoughts there, and then go into the communion area and take a few minutes to, secure the door, disrobe, and slowly enter the communion pool. Um, and for a moment, I just kind of like like drift there before finally taking a breath and diving down as deep as I can go, and then releasing the breath uh, as I was taught to.
The panic doesn't even seem to cross your mind anymore. You've you've done this for long enough that it's almost second nature to let yourself drift and drift as the blackness kind of creeps over the edge of your vision. And then it clears, and you're able to breathe easily again. But this is not. You're a little confused at first because it looks like you haven't gone anywhere. An eerie quiet has settled over the communion area, and it looks like you're still where you left.
Do I find that I'm still in the pool and I'm starting to drown, or do I find myself just kind of like treading water, or water, quote unquote?
Um, you stand, and you realize you're still in your all of your gear, which you weren't when you entered the pool.
I think it takes a moment for it to start to sink in, that although this is still a vision. Um, so I look around the room and kind of wait a moment to see if anything appears.
Make a perception check.
5.
You don't see anything at first. It takes you a minute as your eyes kind of acclimate and you realize this room is not. It's not the one that you entered, or if it is the one that you entered, it's not the same time as the one you entered. As
Interesting.
a dark figure walks from the shadows and gives you a friendly smile, and you do see once more Baxildon.
Oh, oh, this is new. Hi.
The matron felt that I might be more help with your current situation than she could be. And he offers you a hand to get out of the pool.
I take the proffered hand, um, and allow myself to be helped out of the pool. Although now I feel kind of spun for a loop, um, and I kind of bite my lip a little bit. I don't even really notice in the moment if I'm wearing my mask or not. Um, but I'm much more kind of hesitant than I was in the past few visions, just because this is a new experience.
You take his hand, and unlike the kind of vapory hugs that you had gotten when you last saw him, it is solid and warm.
This is very new indeed.
I'm sure she'll speak to you before this vision fades. But she knows what lies heavy in your heart.
Well, I felt that I haven't exactly been the champion she chose today. I felt as though I've earned a bit of her. Uh, I feel disgraced.
He kind of takes your arm and tucks it into his and escorts you out of the chamber, and you realize that that chamber was all that existed of the temple. And you kind of walk into a graveyard.
I feel a momentary thrill of surprise, but it doesn't quite fill me with the kind of feelings that, someone else experiencing this vision would feel. Just being a paladin of the Raven Queen, I don't feel uncomfortable or kind of perplexed. Like, it just feels, okay, we're walking through a graveyard now. All right, I'm okay with this. As I continue to try and find the words to explain how I feel, I do feel compelled to speak a little more openly just because I understand what this is. Even with my awe of Vax'ildan, I do feel that connection that kind of encourages me to speak a little more openly as I finally start to work my way towards things. Yesterday, we returned to Vasselheim. We cleansed the temple. I avenged what happened there and rescued an acolyte's life, and you gave me a profound gift. And by the end of the night, I felt as though I was well and truly walking the path that the matron has set before me. And after hearing what my friends, and then I stop and kind of shake my head a little bit, what my allies were saying and feeling, I had resolved to try and do better. And I paused for a second and kind of chuckle. When we got back to Whitestone, I was planning to try and settle things with the bard, with Seamus. But things went awry, and I made several discoveries which have left me confused and somewhat lost.
What confuses you?
I was faced with the consequences of a decision I made in haste, and I accept those consequences, regardless of how well-meaning they might have been. It seems that I've only made things further strained between myself and my allies, and in that moment of crisis, as they all turned on me and drove home just how badly a mistake I made, I could not help but think back to my time with both the Slayer's Take and the other Talons back in Vasselheim. I kind of pause again, sweeping my gaze across the graveyard as I reminisce a little bit. When I was among the other Talons, there was a certain camaraderie that we felt, a shared sense of purpose and affection for one another. And I've come to realize that I have not felt that sensation since I came to Whitestone. I Despite how much time has passed, I still don't know the city all that well. The paladins here are they quite obviously have not sworn the same oaths that I have. I admire them for their desire to protect the city, but I realize it's come into stark relief just how the tenets of vengeance that I swore differ from those of devotion that they have likely sworn. And I'm starting to feel a friction between my desire to protect and my oath to avenge. Kind of bite my lip again before just kind of like blurting out. I feel like when I try to protect, I end up screwing things up, and that I'm only good when I'm out seeking vengeance for the matron.
Do you trust the people around you?
I give that thoughts a long consideration. I trust them. I trust them to pursue their own agendas. Yeah, that's the answer. That's the answer I give. I kind of hesitate after saying it, but it seems the closest I can get to expressing what I'm feeling.
He nods a little bit and continues walking with you. This graveyard seems to stretch on endlessly, but not in an unpleasant way. It seems like almost a park where you found a well laid path. Do you know the first words I said to the Raven Queen?
No, I do not.
My first words were, "Take me instead, you raven bitch."
At first, I bristle just on instinct at hearing the matron slighted like that, but then I kind of bark out a little laugh. Well, to be honest, have heard worse.
Oh, I'm certain I've said worse in my time. There's no one set way to be a paladin, especially of our particular matron. Death is such a personal thing. It means different things to everyone. Sometimes there's a little bit of wiggle room and coming to terms with how... I'm not saying it quite right. The other Talons may not see directly eye to eye with you, but they are your brothers and sisters in arms, and you can trust them.
I nod along as he's saying this. And I do. I do trust them in the pursuit of their duties, but I kind of pause again to think, and this time I actually stop walking to turn slightly and rest my hand on a nearby gravestone. When I have spent most of my life fleeing from danger or confronting it directly. For the past several years, I lived in a city that was under siege day in and day out, and I served my duties as a paladin outside of the walls, shoulder to shoulder, not just with my own brothers and sisters, but with the paladins of other orders, with the city guard, with the soldiers who served Vasselheim. Day in and day out, week after week, fighting a war that seemed hopeless. Seeing people I knew and cared about dying all around me. And I suppose I accepted my calling without question. The tenets of vengeance under the auspices of the Raven Queen. The oath to fight the greatest evil, to show no mercy for the wicked. And when I came here, a city largely untouched by the worst of Vecna's forces, these people aren't aware of the danger that faces them, that we face. And once more I took it upon myself to fight against him. But the longer that I fight from here, the more I feel out of place. I feel in my bones that this city will fall. That the people I fight beside are not soldiers, they're not brothers in arms. It feels as though we're all simply weapons pointed in the same direction, with little more cause to unite us than that. And as we grow closer to confronting Vecna, I feel more and more that we are not prepared, and that these fractures between us will grow wider. And I don't know how to deal with this problem. It's not something I can swing my sword at.
Well, I guess it depends on what end you're trying to achieve.
To destroy Vecna himself.
Yes, but beyond that.
I kind of purse my lips a little bit and give that some thought. In all honesty, I cannot picture a world where he does not exist. And then I kind of turn slightly. My eyes are still downcast a little as I kind of, again, kind of confessing to these deeper thoughts. I don't know what a world like that would be like, and I don't think I know how to live in a world without Vecna in it.
He nods a little bit. My own worst crisis of faith came during peacetime. And I can't say that I ever found a purpose beyond, because the moment I stopped to take a breath and really think about what we were doing, the people that I was with, I mean, I love them, but I didn't know why we were doing what we were doing or why I was doing it with them. And of course, that was the day the dragons descended upon the city, so I never really had to face it.
But even then, there was a camaraderie between you all. There was. I saw the way that you would look at one another, that acceptance of. You were friends.
That came with years and years of being forced to be with each other. I mean, I'm pretty sure Grog still meant to kill me like half of the time.
Kind of smile a little bit at that. But the arguments that you had was maybe I know that my brother and I only knew all of you for a short time. But looking at the way things are now, I kind of shake my head again. I don't have companions like that. I don't have. Beyond Ilya and my family, I don't have friends.
Do you think that the bard would care and act and lash out so much as he does if he didn't care about you?
I believe the bard acts out and lashes out at me because he feels the need to have authority over those around him. And I kind of like half raise my hands. And in retrospect, what this situation with my adopted brother has taught me is that I suffer from the same arrogance. I took it upon myself to make a decision for an entire town, and it turned out very, very poorly.
We all make
But
mistakes.
I try to learn from them, but it feels like the bard seems insistent on continuing down that path. Did you know he picked a fight with a barbarian for no reason? I mean, I wasn't there to hear what the reason was, but honestly, why would you pick a fight with someone bigger and, well, I kind of pause and kind of let my shoulders slump. Actually, I have picked a fight with people stronger than me.
He's letting you talk this out. There's like a twitch to the corner of his mouth as every single time you say, I wouldn't, oh, well, I do, but I wouldn't, but oh, I do.
I kind of scowl a little bit and turn and start walking again. Slowly. I'm not storming off, but just walking again. I know there's a great, though I loathe to admit it, there's a great deal of similarity between us. I acknowledge that, and perhaps that's why it is so frustrating to find a way to move forward with him. I told you I was going to buy him a drink. I wanted to talk this out and put it behind us, but
Do you feel
as
it's too
everyone
late?
is, well, as everyone is so quick to remind me, so quick to tell me, I screwed up. And it endangered his family. I may have been able to make amends over a drink before, but now that his mothers have been threatened because of actions I took, because of my own arrogance and ignorance, I kind of shake my head a little bit. A drink will not be enough to solve that particular problem.
Do you feel badly about it?
I do. I spoke. I spoke without thinking, which I know is a fault of mine.
Have you told him this?
The silence stretches for a moment before I answer. No, I haven't had the chance. And were I to offer an apology, I'm sure he would be all too happy to point out exactly how badly I screwed up and how I never listened and on about all my flaws and faults, and there's a little growl that kind of enters in my voice, but I just kind of sigh heavily. I have spent so long trying to define a life for myself under my own terms. It nearly cost me the life of, it cost me the love of a good woman. And to have that question, to have someone who knows nothing about me or what I've gone through to come in and claim authority to speak to me of things they have no insight upon, it cuts deeper than I expected it to.
He nods and continues to walk with you for a moment, letting the silence kind of fill the. It's a comfortable silence. Well, if the situation were reversed, what would you do? What would you want from him? You say that you are very similar.
I think that over for another few steps. Well, I would begin by respecting the fact that I can't speak about someone's experiences without bothering to get to know them first. I know, well, the matron teaches us not to judge the living, for she will judge them all in the end, and that is something that I find is probably the most difficult of her teachings to live up to. But were it not for that, if it were not for that arrogance, then I feel as though there might be a way to make amends. But I don't know if he would even hear me. considering how difficult it is for me to hear others when I am frustrated. I get a pensive look on my face again.
You're thinking. What are you thinking now?
I am thinking that it is much easier to reflect upon these things when there is not a grand distraction in play to divert my attention. I have always found answers and solace in peace, yet I am also quick to anger, and when I am angry, I am not thoughtful.
Well, you are not with him currently, and he is not with you. Perhaps a few hours might give everyone's tempers a little bit of time to regain some composure.
I suppose the effort could not hurt, at the very least. But I fear that's just one problem that I face in the waking world. Granted, perhaps my largest one, but I'm just not certain of my place here. When we are on a mission, when we are hunting Vecna or his forces or his batteries, I feel at peace with my purpose. I feel that I am moving with the will of the Raven Queen, but here in this city, wandering about and looking towards a future of destruction I know I cannot do anything about. I don't know how to act. I don't know what my place is in this city.
Sometimes it is easiest to define ourselves by who we are in relation to others. Especially when we are ourselves floundering.
I nod my agreement. That's why I felt so... Well, that's why I felt better in Vasselheim, despite the danger that we faced constantly, despite the people we lost. Fighting shoulder to shoulder among the other defenders of the city, knowing the walls would hold back the tide if we could only break a little further. I knew my place there. Even when I was not fighting, I knew that the city was safe because of my efforts. But here it feels that it feels like my efforts to try and see this city secured are rebuffed. And though I know this city has stood well enough on its own, so did Vasselheim. Vasselheim with walls taller and thicker, with the grace of the gods shining upon it, and it fell. And to see this town so unprepared for what I know will come. Vecna will come, his armies will come. And there are his spies inside of this wall. He knows where this city is. He has sent his forces here twice already. More than that. But they are all so comfortable thinking that they have the situation well in hand. And I fear for this city, and I feel as though what I am doing will not matter.
What preparations has the city made?
I know that they drill their guards relentlessly. They place their trust in some magic that is supposed to hide them from Vecna's sight, though all evidence points to the contrary. I kind of bristle a little bit and sigh. I do not know more than that, and it does not seem they are inclined to trust me with more than that.
Have you asked?
I've tried on one occasion and was rebuffed, though I can acknowledge that I was angry at the time and perhaps did not want to hear what was being said. She kind of gets that slumped shoulders, kind of head gazing off to the side in that, yes, I know what comes next expression.
He doesn't seem to belabor the point. So you worry after the city, after its occupants. You worry about your not friends. What else worries you?
I worry that my I worry that my worry over protecting those around me will interfere with the need to avenge those that have fallen before me. Back in Vasselheim, when I swore my oaths, the commander reinforced the point that among the Talons it was not our lot to protect or comfort. That we were the swords that sought out the enemies so that others could worry about the living. I've never been... Well, I found it easier to uphold those oaths in a city under siege than it has been in a city like Whitestone, where I've had time to know people.
You see Vax'ildan roll his eyes. Your commander's an idiot.
kind of glance over to him without saying anything.
It is good to make connections. It is good to fall in love and find friends and find a family and love your family passionately. You are not an automaton.
I kind of turn my head to look forward again, my gaze a little downcast, but not downcast as in depressed, just thoughtful, pensive.
By shutting that part of yourself off, you weaken yourself. You do not have to choose devotion or vengeance, or choose all of them. Avenge those that have fallen. Protect those that you can. Serve the matron mother as best you can.
Kind of nods slightly. In that case, I do feel compelled to admit that if one more drunk smacks my bottom, I don't care what the matron says, I'm going to punch his lights out.
Do?
I kind of shoot him like a side eye with a slight smirk. And then I sigh. This has given me much to think on. I kind of squint down at the ground as well. I think I need to see a woman about a horse.
That means something in the class, but I'm not sure.
I learned it from someone in the class.
Hopefully a good someone. My run-ins were not as pleasant.
He has proven capable. I don't know if I would go so far as to call him a friend. But he is a weapon pointed in the same direction.
You feel a hand kind of settle on your shoulder and give a squeeze. You might be surprised to find that these people care for you deeply.
I'm not so certain, but it would be arrogant of me to presume what they feel, would it not? I say that with a very an acknowledging kind of smile, kind of recognizing again in myself the same kind of qualities that I was calling out about Seamus.
He grins and kind of taps your nose.
I kind of stiffen a little bit and scowl at him. But after a moment, the scowl fades, and I kind of smile and lower my eyes again. Thank you for speaking with me and walking with me.
I am always here for you.
I will do my best to live up to the expectations you and the matron have of me.
Vaxildon visibly snorts. Please do remember, before I was the man you knew, I was all kinds of fucked up.
I kind of wince a little bit knowingly. That is not the kind of things the history books like to say of you.
I once shaved off of half of Grog's beard.
That sounds incredibly dangerous.
Let's see.
And funny.
Let's see. I gave Scanlan a love potion so that he would fall in love with Percy.
How did that actually work?
For an hour.
I snort and laugh. I can understand why those are the kinds of things that aren't spoken of in the stories and histories.
No. Because real life isn't glamorous. It is easier to remember a wooden cutout of a person than the whole person. I mean, hell, before... I can't count the number of times I've broken Percival's nose.
There were comrades at the Slayer's Take that I had a similar relationship with. I think I understand your meaning, though.
He nods to you. Now, I think down this path you'll find what you're looking for. She'll be waiting for you.
I nod, and then I turn to him and bow.
He pulls you in for a tight hug.
Yeah. After a startled moment, I hug him back.
And he walks away.
I watch him go.
Okay. He gets about 30 feet down and he kind of just fades.
As he fades away, I turn and look around me.
You're in a well-appointed park. There's large old trees around, gravestones on either side, but it thins out on the path up ahead.
I look back the way I've come. I look forward down the path, and then I continue onward.
Okay. As you continue onward, it just thins. First it's not any trees, then it's not any gravestones, then it's not anything as you walk into the void. But ahead of you, you see a bench where a woman sits.
I kind of blink a little as that comes into sight, as I fully expected to kind of fade back out of the vision and proceed slowly, frowning slightly and trying to see if I recognize the woman.
The woman has a white porcelain face.
Oh, I know this woman.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of draw in a breath as I approach, and once I get close enough, I kneel down before her.
You go to kneel and you realize you're sitting on the bench next to her.
I kind of sway a little bit off balance. Oh. I suppose I'm sitting here now.
Did you have a good talk with your predecessor?
I did. Thank you.
I felt he might be enlightening.
He has given me a great deal to think upon. I kind of tilt my head
wise.
slightly and kind of look at her out of the corner of my eye as she speaks.
Okay. Her face is emotionless, passive. She looks ahead to a distant flickering light.
I turn my head to follow her gaze.
You will be gone from my sight shortly.
What? And then I turn to face her fully.
Your path leads you to a place where I cannot look upon you. You will still have access to the powers that I can lend you, but you will be leaving the material plane, I fear.
I nod and look down, thinking back to my experiences in said other plane. I do not wish to return there, though I know I have to.
I know what this means to you. I know what I am asking of you.
I tremble a little bit, but I nod. You have never asked more than I have been able to give. I believe this will be no different.
You feel a hand kind of brush the back of your head. And it's a cold touch. It's not warm like Vaxilon's, it's chilly. You always do rise to the occasion.
I kind of swell with pride at that. I do my best.
But I believe it is time for you to return and end your communion. Your friend is waiting for you.
Kind of blink and cock my head a little as I glance over to her.
She is not there.
Huh. I move off the bench and get back into a kneeling position, kind of close my eyes and breathe deep.
As you breathe deeply, you feel the light in the distance that she was looking at starts to grow. And almost like a dawn, the void around you goes from just inky black to faint yellows, blues. And then you come to, gasping as you breach the communion pool.
Gasping and spluttering and grabbing the side of the pool to catch my breath. Alright, so now that I'm awake, a kind of a mechanical question to make sure I'm getting a timeline of events right. When we broke last game, I thought I heard you say that there was an interval of hours between the time we started taking the rescuing the people from down in the cage, or in the cages, and between rescuing them and coming back to them. So I just want to double check roughly how much time would have passed since I would have gotten to the temple to the time when Macklin showed up, because there was something I wanted to see if there was time to do before I met with him.
Okay. There is some time, and he is waiting. So, but it took him and Darius a little while to quote unquote stealth. So,
okay, I probably won't have. Yeah, it's something I can put off later.
I mean, you have probably an hour or so. Your communion did not take as long as you had thought it was going to.
That might actually work.
It's one of those dreams where you have it and you're like, oh my god, I've been asleep for hours. And then it's only been like 10 minutes.
Okay. In that case, I will try to clean up as much as I can and then get dressed again. And I want to try and hurry back over to the alcove.
Okay. Roll me just a general stealth check.
15.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of slip unnoticed. There's a bunch of paladins around.
Yeah, priestess is back. Everyone's kind of milling about. There's kind of a hubbub.
Yeah. So, no one seems to notice you leaving the communion room as you slip away.
Okay. Yeah, so I hurry down the street towards the alcove, kind of still a little unsteady, but there was an idea that had been playing in the back of my mind a day before, and now after this communion it's kind of latched on, and I feel the need to speak with the proprietress.
Okay. Yeah, you enter the shop. She is behind she's kind of just reading a book behind the counter.
And I did not have my notebook open, so I forgot her name.
Jordana.
It was Jordana. Okay, I did remember. Then I will head straight for where she's at the counter. Miss Jordana, a moment, please.
Of course. For some of my best customers. And she closes the book. What can I help you with?
I reach up to my neck and I pull off the Memento Mori amulet. And I set it down on the counter. This amulet is part of a linked pair. They have an enchantment on it that informs the wearer when um, the person wearing the paired item is in dire straits. Are you familiar with that kind of enchantment?
Um, More or less, yes. I've made a few in my past. They're very popular. I believe they were very popular in Vasselheim. On the black market. Not that I would know anything about that. And she gives you a smile and a wink.
I have no idea what you mean. Um, I was wondering if you may be able to move the enchantment to a different sort of item.
Certainly.
Say a piece of jewelry.
Oh, would not be complicated, no.
Is there a jeweler in Whitestone?
There's a few. There's one uptown. It's called the Crested Gecko.
Crested gecko. Okay.
Actually, perhaps first you tell me what sort of piece you're looking for. Now that I think about it, the Crested Gecko might not have the sorts of pieces that would fit someone that you would buy jewelry for. And she kind of gives you a knowing look.
I'd like to move the enchantment to a pair of rings.
She nods.
And that would be the moment when the TV episode cuts out. But yeah, that's all that I want to do with her for now.
Okay. She nods. She gives you, she tells you instead of the Crested Gecko, you should go to a young blacksmith in town who does good work with silver and gold in his spare time. Simple but elegant pieces.
That sounds good.
His name is...
Cure is going to go about seeing to the commissioning of a pair of rings.
Okay. You are sent to a shop, towards the outskirts of town, where a young gentleman named Sam Hutchins is working. And by working, I mean taking a nap.
Was writing that down. Okay, I have no qualms about waking him up and speaking to him about the project that I'd like to commission.
Do you want gold, silver?
Gold.
Alright. Simple bands, decoration, engraving.
Kiora starts to realize that she hasn't thought this all the way through.
He actually pulls out a sketchbook, which is kind of filled with bits and pieces of stuff that he's designed, and sketches out two simple bands that look like curved feathers. Maybe something like this?
Ah, I like that. Kiora nods. And asks if there might be a way to include a setting for a jewel. I say a small diamond if one could be acquired.
He nods. I can get one of those. I've got a buddy. and he adjusts one of the rings so that it actually is, it's a ring set, and the feathers kind of emerge from the jewel.
I like this. The next question would be the price.
For something like this, in gold, 10 gold for the pair.
Let me see something. I try to maintain my surprise at the affordability of the rings by rolling a 12 in deception.
If he notices your surprise, he does not comment on it.
I I think I can part with that much.
Because what you're asking for is
Eh.
not overly complicated.
Yeah, she'll pull out the 11 coins and then pull out four more next to them to ensure his best work.
He smiles at you. Well, that'll get you a better stone. And he kind of pockets all of it. I'll probably have it done by tomorrow afternoon.
She nods and thanks him, and leaves the blacksmith shop and starts heading back towards the middle of town, finding herself a bit more at peace than she was a few hours ago. And the responsibilities that she has to attend to start to kind of creep in at the edge of her mind as she realizes there's still a bu- a bunch of doppelgangers to question and amends to be made if it's possible. But that might have to wait a little bit. So she's kind of moving towards the middle of town slowly, kind of deep in thought and trying to decide her next course of action.
Okay. As you're kind of moving through town, you see Macklin kind of bustle by you towards the Temple of the Raven Queen.
I cock my head a little bit, and I am going to follow him at a distance
Okay.
without him knowing.
You manage to do so. You see him enter the temple respectfully and approach one of the prospects. He asks about your whereabouts. He is told that you are in communion. And he kind of resigns himself to waiting and asks for a pamphlet. He is given a simple prayer book, which he settles onto a pew and starts reading with.
Okay, I'm going to watch from a distance for now. Out of character, I had mentioned, I'd kind of alluded to hype that Cure may or may not be there when he gets there. So I'm gonna play up the fact that they're going to find out real quick that she's no longer in communion and let him know. And I can't wait to see his reaction. So Kyor's mostly lurking near the front of the temple. She's feeling a little prankish, so she's going to see where this goes.
Alright. And we will pick it up there on Tuesday.
Sounds good to me.